My dad lifted his glass and said, "Some kids make you proud, others just take up space. Some kids make you proud. Others just take up space." My name is Sophia Grace Miller. I'm 24. My father stood at the head table. His name is Richard. He was wearing a new tuxedo, and the chandeliers in the ballroom threw gold light across his face. He looked powerful. He looked happy. He raised his champagne glass. Beside him, my sister Kara was a cloud of white lace. It was her wedding. She was beaming. "I want to make a toast," my father said. His voice filled the room. The music softened. Hundreds of people turned in their chairs. I watched him from my table in the back near the kitchen. "Table 14, the overflow table. To my daughter, Kara," he said. "She has always been a joy. She lights up every room she enters." Kara blushed. Her new husband, Ethan, kissed her hand. My mother, Eleanor, watched them both with a smile so perfect it looked like it was carved from ivory. "As a father," Richard went on, "you want your children to succeed. You want to be proud of them." He paused. He looked away from Kara. His eyes scanned the crowd, right past me, as if I was just another part of the catering staff. Then he said the words, "Some kids make you proud." He smiled at Kara again. "Others just take up space." But before I tell you how everything flipped, like and subscribe and drop a comment. Where are you watching from? The laughter that followed wasn't kind. It wasn't warm. It was polite, controlled, and a little afraid. It was the sound of people who heard the cruelty but chose to ignore it. They were guests. It wasn't their problem. My mother's smile didn't flicker. She took a delicate sip of her wine. My sister grinned, like she hadn't just heard her new husband's family hear her father insult his other child. She heard it. She just didn't care. It wasn't aimed at her, and me, Sophia Grace Miller, the daughter who worked 3 jobs to pay her own tuition because my parents' money was needed for Kara. I just sat there. My hand was wrapped around my own glass. It felt heavy like a rock. I could feel the heat rising in my face. My whole body felt like a high-pitched sound. He meant me. He always meant me. I thought of the nursing shifts. I thought of the papers I wrote until 3 a.m. I thought of the scholarships I had to win, because when I asked for help with tuition, my father told me, "You're smart. You'll figure it out." I had figured it out. I graduated with honors and 0 debt, and I was taking up space. I looked at my father. He was laughing now, moving on to another joke. I set my glass down. I didn't slam it. I set it down very quietly. I stood up. My chair made a small, soft scrape on the polished floor. It was just loud enough. The people at my table stopped talking. My father paused. He saw me. His smile tightened at the edges. I had interrupted his performance. I picked up my glass. I held it up, but not as a toast. I held it like a shield. My voice was steady. It was clear. It didn't shake. "Good thing I just bought my own place 2,000 miles away," I said. The polite laughter died. The room went absolutely still. "You won't have to see me take up space again." My father's face went from proud to pale. My mother's painted smile finally cracked. She looked horrified. Not for me. For the scene, I turned. I walked away from table 14. I walked past the bar. I walked across the huge ballroom floor, my heels clicking on the marble. Click, click, click. They sounded like punctuation marks. The final punctuation marks on the story they had written for me. I walked out of the ballroom, into the lobby, and I did not look back. That was the night they toasted control, and that was the night I started writing my own story. I didn't go back to the hotel they'd booked for me. I drove my old Honda Accord to the small apartment I'd been renting for 2 years, the one my parents hated visiting because it was small and in a bad part of town. I packed a bag. I slept for 3 hours. 2 days later, I drove back to my parents' house in Indiana, the house I grew up in. It looked exactly the same. Same perfect green lawn. Same polished white porch lights. Same heavy oak door that always stuck in the humidity. The house smelled the same, too. Like lemon-scented furniture polish, old coffee, and a silence that always felt like judgment. My car was in the driveway. I still had a key. I let myself in. My father was sitting at the kitchen table, the one where all our family dinners had happened. He was typing on his laptop. The click-clack-click of the keys was the only sound. He didn't look up when I walked in. I stood in the doorway between the kitchen and the hall, my old backpack in my hand. I was just here for the last of my things. Some winter clothes, my birth certificate. You made quite a scene, he said. He was still looking at his screen. My voice was flat. You publicly humiliated me, Dad. I made a joke, he said, finally looking up. His eyes were cold. You, as always, made it about you. You ruined your sister's wedding reception. I ruined it? By leaving? By making a speech? By storming out? I didn't storm, I said. I walked. My mother, Eleanor, came in from the laundry room, holding a basket of folded towels. She didn't look tired. She just looked annoyed. She poured herself a cup of coffee and murmured, You embarrassed yourself, Sophia. Embarrassed myself. That's how they rewrote it. In their story, I was the problem. His words were just a joke. My reaction was the scene. He called me useless in front of 200 people, I said, looking at my mother. He said I take up space. He was toasting Kara, Mom said, her voice sharp. He was emotional, and you had to make it about your feelings. You're too sensitive. Too sensitive. If I had $1 for every time they called me too sensitive, I could have paid off my own student loans twice. Too sensitive was what they said when their cruelty finally made me cry. Too dramatic was what they said when I finally got angry. My phone buzzed in my pocket. I pulled it out. It was a text from Kara, my sister. She was on her honeymoon in Hawaii. It was a picture of her and Ethan holding champagne glasses on a beach. The text underneath it had 2 champagne emoji and said, Honeymoon is amazing. Sorry you left early, you missed the cake. She sent it like nothing had happened. Because for her, nothing had happened. Nothing bad. Her father had praised her and insulted me. For Kara, that was just a normal Tuesday. I put the phone back in my pocket. I didn't reply. That's how it always was. When Kara failed a class in college, it was bad timing. My father called the dean. When I failed a quiz, it was a lack of discipline. When Kara maxed out 3 credit cards on clothes, my parents paid them off and said she was just finding her style. When I worked 40 hours a week at the hospital diner, my father said it was good for my character. When I won the state scholarship, my mother told her friends I was lucky. When Kara got a DUI, my father hired the best lawyer in the state and it went away. I looked at my father, still at the table. I looked at my mother, folding towels as if we were discussing the weather. I'm here for my birth certificate, I said. And my winter clothes. Then I'm leaving. Leaving? Mom scoffed. Where are you going, Sophia? Back to your sad little apartment? No, I said. I'm leaving Indiana. My father finally closed his laptop. The silence was sudden and heavy. Don't be ridiculous, he said. I'm not. I'm moving. The place I told you about at the wedding. It's in Portland. You're what? My father stood up. He was taller than me and he used it. You're not moving to Portland. You don't know anyone in Portland. You don't have a job. I do, actually, I said. I got the offer last week. I've been planning this for 6 months. The wedding just sped things up. My mother put the basket down. You planned this? You planned to run away. I planned to have a life, I said. A life where I'm not the family disappointment. You are a disappointment, my father yelled. His face was red. You're ungrateful. We gave you everything. You gave Kara everything, I said. My voice was quiet, but it cut through his yelling. You gave me the leftovers. You gave me expectations Kara never had to meet. You gave me a standard and she got a safety net. That's not true, my mother said. It is true. You know it. He knows it. Kara knows it. I turned and walked to my old bedroom. It was half empty. The walls were still painted a pale yellow I had always hated. My mother had picked it. I pulled my old duffel bag from the closet. I started pulling sweaters from the drawers. My mother followed me. She stood in the doorway. This was her tactic. He was the hammer, she was the guilt. Your father, he's just under a lot of stress, she whispered. He's been under stress for 24 years, Mom. Kara's wedding was expensive. He's worried about money. I stopped packing. I held a blue sweater in my hand. He's worried about money? I paid for my entire college education, Mom. I worked. I got scholarships. You spent my college fund on Kara's gap year in Europe after she dropped out. That's different, she said. How? I turned to face her. Tell me how it's different. Kara just needs us more, Sophia. The words hit me. They hit me harder than the toast. She needs us more. I wasn't the daughter who needed them. I was the one who was supposed to be fine. I was the one who was supposed to be quiet and smart and take care of myself, so they could spend all their time and energy on Kara. I was the support system. I was the utility. I wasn't the child, I see, I said. So because I'm not a train wreck, I don't get love? I just get space? You're twisting my words, she said, her voice turning cold. The mask was back on. No, I said. I'm finally hearing them. I zipped the duffel bag. I grabbed my box of files from the closet. My birth certificate. My social security card. My diploma. I walked past her. My father was waiting in the hall. So that's it? He said. You're just going to run away like a coward? I stopped. I looked at him. I looked at the man who was supposed to protect me. I'm not running, I said. I'm walking. I'm just not taking up space in your house anymore. I walked out the front door. I got in my car. I didn't look back as I pulled out of the driveway. I drove away from the house that was never my home. The drive to Portland took 3 days. It was 2,000 miles of flat plains, high deserts, and mountains. I kept the radio off. I just needed to think. I drove until I was tired, slept in cheap motels, and ate at gas stations. With every mile, the house in Indiana got smaller, but the memories got louder. I kept thinking about what my mother said. Kara just needs us more. It was the key. It was the key to my whole childhood. I had spent my whole life trying to be perfect, thinking that if I was perfect, they would finally love me as much as they loved Kara. I was wrong. They didn't love Kara despite her flaws. They loved her because of them. Her flaws, her debt, her bad timing, her drama made her need them. It made them feel powerful. It made them feel like parents. I didn't need them. I had learned very early not to. I remembered I was 16. I brought home my report card. It was all A's, straight A's. I found my dad in the garage working on his car. I handed it to him. He glanced at it. Good, he said. He handed it back. Now go mow the lawn. But I got straight A's, I said. Kara got a C in algebra. He wiped his hands on an A rag and looked at me. His eyes were hard. Kara is trying, he said. You're just doing what's expected. If you want love, Sophia, you have to earn it. I thought he meant responsibility. I thought it was a lesson. He meant obedience. So I tried to earn it. I tried to buy their affection. I mowed the lawn. I did the dishes without being asked. I got a job at the local library and saved my own money. I never asked for anything. I was the responsible one, the easy one, the smart one. But at Christmas, I'd spend my whole paycheck on a new watch for my dad. He would open it, say, nice, and put it aside. Then Kara would give him a framed photo of herself, and he would cry. He would put it on his desk. I didn't understand. I just thought I had to work harder. But that night at the wedding, when I was sitting at table 14, I finally understood the truth. They didn't misunderstand me. They didn't want me to be successful. They preferred me small. My success was a problem for them. My independence was an insult. It meant I didn't need them. It meant I was out of their control. Kara was their pet. I was their project. And I had failed because I had stopped letting them fix me. I arrived in Portland on a rainy Tuesday. My apartment was a tiny studio in an old brick building. The place I bought was a lie I told at the wedding. It was a lie I told to save face. The truth was, I had a security deposit, a first month's rent, and a job that started in 1 week. I sat on the floor of my new, empty apartment. The walls were thin. I could hear a neighbor's TV. I had a sleeping bag, 2 boxes of clothes, and my box of files. That was it. I felt empty. But I also felt clear. For the first time in my life, I wasn't trying to earn anything. I was just here. I pulled out my phone. I looked at the picture Kara had sent. Her on the beach, smiling, without a care in the world. I didn't hate her. I just didn't want to be her. I didn't want to be them. Their love wasn't just conditional. It was a prison, and I had just escaped. I looked at the old photo I kept in my wallet. It was from a family trip to the lake. I was 10, Kara was 8. I was holding up a big fish I had caught. I was so proud. I was smiling at the camera. My dad was in the background, teaching Kara how to skip rocks. My mom was watching them, smiling. No one was looking at me. I had been holding that fish, waiting for someone to notice for my entire life. I put the photo back in my wallet. Okay, I whispered to the empty room. I'm done. I was done trying to get them to look. I was done trying to be good enough. I was just done. I sat on my floor in Portland, but my real escape hadn't started with the car ride. It hadn't even started with the wedding toast. It started 6 months ago. in my small Indiana apartment. It started with a single file on my laptop. I had named the file Oxygen. It started the day after my father forgot my 24th birthday. He and my mother had taken Kara to a spa for the weekend to help her de-stress from her wedding planning. They'd called me on Monday and my mother said, "Oh, honey, was your birthday this weekend?" It completely slipped my mind. I hung up the phone and I didn't cry. I just felt cold. I went to my laptop. I opened a new document, Oxygen. It was my plan. It started with a new bank account, one my parents didn't know about, an online-only bank with a different address. Then I started selling things. I sold the few pieces of good jewelry my grandmother had left me. My mother had always said they didn't suit me. I sold my old violin. I had played for 10 years. I was good. But my father hated the noise. Every time I practiced, he'd yell from his office to keep it down. I sold it to a music store downtown. The man gave me $800 in cash. It hurt, like I was selling a part of my own body. But when the money went into the new account, I felt lighter. I sold books from college. I sold clothes on Poshmark. I sold the desk my parents had given me for high school. Every dollar was a breath. Every sale was a step. I was working full-time at a small marketing firm in Indianapolis. I was good at it. My boss liked me. But I knew I couldn't stay. I started saving every single penny. I ate a ramen. I stopped buying coffee. I lied and said I was on a new budget. My Oxygen file had subfolders. One was called Jobs. One was called Cities. One was called Budget. I researched cities far away. Portland, Denver, Seattle, places that smelled like rain and cedar, not judgment. Places where no one knew my name. Places where I wouldn't be Kara's sister. I spent my nights tailoring my resume. I wrote cover letters. I practiced interview questions in my car. The whole time, I was terrified. I was terrified my mother would stop by my apartment unannounced and see my empty closets. I was terrified my father would somehow check my bank accounts. He had made me keep a joint family account with him for emergencies. I had to slowly, carefully, move my paycheck money out of it, 100 at a time, so he wouldn't notice the transfer. I was living two lives. In one life, I was Sophia, the quiet daughter. I went to Sunday dinners. I listened to my mother talk about Kara's wedding flowers. I nodded when my father complained about politics. In the other life, I was just Sophia. I was a ghost, packing up my life, one small piece at a time. A month before the wedding, I got an email. We'd like to schedule a second interview. It was a design firm in Portland. A good one. Creative director. I did the Zoom call in my car, parked behind a grocery store so no one could hear me. I wore a nice blouse and pajama pants. The interview was good. I felt good. A week later, the offer came. It was real. Good salary, benefits, moving assistance. I sat in my car and I just breathed. It was the first full breath I'd taken in years. I accepted the job. I found an apartment online. I signed the lease. I paid the deposit and first month's rent from my Oxygen account. That was the place I bought. It was mine. I had done it. I was going to leave the week after the wedding. I was going to sit them down, be an adult, and tell them. But then, at the reception, my father stood up. He raised his glass, and he gave me the exit I didn't even know I needed. He gave me permission to leave without guilt. He cut the final string himself. He said I take up space, so I decided to take my space, and take it 2,000 miles away. I was in my new Portland apartment for 3 days. I had an air mattress, a folding chair, and my laptop. The room smelled like new paint and rain. My job started in a week. I was sitting on the floor, eating cereal out of a paper cup when my phone rang. The screen flashed. Mom. My stomach dropped. 2,000 miles felt like 2 inches. I let it ring 4 times. I told myself to be strong, I answered. Hello? Sophia? Oh, thank God. You're alive. Her voice was high and tight, full of that fake public panic. Of course I'm alive, Mom, I said. I texted you when I got here. I had sent one simple text. I'm in Portland. I'm safe. I got no reply. You're not safe. You're all alone. You ran away. I didn't run away, Mom. I moved. I have a job. I have an apartment. We've talked about this. You talked about it, she corrected. We told you it was a bad idea. Don't run away from family because of one bad night. There it was. The official family story. One bad night, my father's toast. My escape, my new life. They had shrunk it all down to one bad night. Mom, it wasn't one night, I said, my voice tired. It was my whole life. You know that? You are breaking my heart, Sophia, she whispered. The tears were starting. They were always on time. After everything we've done for you. After all the sacrifices. The guilt. It was so thick I could barely breathe. It was their favorite weapon. What sacrifices, Mom? I asked. I stood up and started pacing the empty room. What did you do for me? You sat there. You watched him. You let him. You let him call me useless. You let him spend my college money on Kara. You stood in my room and told me Kara needs you more. He's your father, she cried. He loves you. He loves Kara, I said, my voice hard. He tolerates me. You're being selfish. You're only thinking of yourself. I stopped pacing. I looked out the window. The rain was washing the streets clean. Yes, I said. Yes, I am. For the first time. I have to go, Mom. I'm busy. I hung up. My hands were shaking. I sat on the air mattress and I cried. I cried for that 16-year-old girl trying to earn love. I cried for the 10-year-old holding the fish. I cried because I felt so free and so sick. An hour later, the phone rang again. Dad. I wiped my face. I was done crying. Now I was just cold. I answered. What? You hung up on your mother. It wasn't a question. It was a judgment. Yes. You're being dramatic, Sophia. He boomed. I held the phone away from my ear. This whole thing. This move, it's childish. You're trying to punish us. I'm not trying to punish you, I said. I'm trying to leave you. I have a job, Dad. I have a lease. I pay my own bills. What part of that is childish? You're running from your problems. You're a coward. I am running from my problems, I said. And you're at the top of the list. There was silence. I had never ever talked to him like that. I could hear his breathing. Family is forever, he said. His voice was low. It was a threat. It sounds like a threat, Dad. It's a fact. You can't escape who you are. You're a Miller. No, I said. I'm Sophia. Just Sophia. You'll be back, he snarled. You'll fail. You think you're so smart, but you'll fail. You always do. You always do I? I asked. Or do you just tell me I do? I graduated with honors. I got this job. I paid my own way. Where's the failure, Dad? I am done, he yelled. You are not my problem anymore. Don't call here asking for money. I never have, I said. He hung up. I looked at my phone. The call was over. I felt nothing, just empty. I went into my contacts. I found his name. I pressed the block button. I found my mother's name. I pressed block. I felt sick. I felt free. That night I didn't sleep. I just sat by the window watching the rain in a new city. The folder on my laptop was named Oxygen. I didn't need it anymore. I was out. I was finally breathing. It had been 2 weeks since the wedding. 2 weeks since I walked out of that ballroom. 2 weeks of living in a strange, silent limbo. I was still in Indiana. I was still working at the small marketing firm downtown. I went to the grocery store. I paid my rent. From the outside, nothing had changed. But inside, everything was different. I was a ghost in my own life. I was saving every dollar. I was checking my Oxygen email account 10 times a day, waiting for a reply from the firms in Portland, Seattle, or Denver. The applications I'd sent after my father's call felt like small paper boats I'd pushed into a huge, dark ocean. My parents and I were in a cold war. After the guilt calls, part 5, they had gone silent. They were punishing me with their absence, which honestly felt like a reward. I knew it wouldn't last. They were just reloading. They were waiting for me to break, to apologize, to come crawling back and say, "You were right. I'm dramatic. Please forgive me." I was determined to die before I gave them that satisfaction. I was at my desk, editing a brochure for a local bank when my phone vibrated. I looked at the screen. Kara. My stomach didn't just drop. It evaporated. Kara never called me. Not unless she needed something, or more likely wanted to brag about something. She would call to tell me about a new purse, a new restaurant, or how perfect Ethan was. She was my father's daughter. All of her conversations were performances, but she was on her honeymoon in Hawaii. She shouldn't be calling me. She should be sending me annoying photos of beaches, which she had done, part 2, and which I had ignored. A call was different. A call meant trouble. I let it ring twice, my heart hammering. I stepped away from my desk and walked into the office stairwell. The air was cool and smelled like concrete. I answered. Kara, is everything okay? A sound came through the phone. It wasn't words. It was a horrible, wet, gasping sound. She was sobbing. It was the ugliest cry I had ever heard. Kara, what's wrong? Where are you? She choked. I'm home. I'm at my apartment. You're home? From Hawaii? He left me, she wailed, and the sound was so high-pitched, so animal, that I pulled the phone away from my ear. He left me, Sophia. He's gone. My brain went cold. What do you mean he's gone? Ethan, he packed a bag. He just left me. He said, she broke down again, a storm of sobs. I stood in the stairwell, my hand pressed against the cold cinder block wall. I should have felt sympathy. I should have felt sisterly concern. I felt nothing. Just a very tired, very deep sense of course. Kara, slow down. What did he say? He said, she took a huge, shuddering breath. He said he couldn't do it. He couldn't be married to me. He said I was just like them. Like Mom and Dad. Well, he wasn't wrong. And then he said he what, Kara? He said he needs space. That word. Space. The word my father had used as a weapon against me. Others just take up space. It hung in the air between us. The universe had a very dark, very specific sense of humor. Ethan, the golden boy husband, had just told Kara, the golden child wife, that she was taking up too much space. I couldn't speak. The irony was too thick. Sophia? She whispered. Are you there? Please, can you come over? I'm scared. I don't want to be alone. I called Mom and Dad, and they're on their way, but they're so mad. Dad is yelling. I don't want to be here when he gets here. Please, Soph, please. She was scared of Dad, not of the heartbreak, not of the divorce. She was scared of our father's reaction. That, I understood. The old gear clicked into place. The old role. Sophia, the responsible one. Sophia, the fixer. The one who cleans up the messes. I'll be there, I said, and hung up. I walked back to my desk. I told my boss I had a family emergency. He nodded, his eyes kind. Go, he said. I hope everything is okay. I drove to Kara's new apartment. It was a luxury high-rise downtown, one my father had co-signed the lease for. It was the kind of place I would never be able to afford, even with my new job. The door was unlocked. I pushed it open, and the smell hit me. It was a sour, sick-sweet smell. Heartbreak and champagne. Kara was on the floor. She was sitting in the middle of her brand-new living room, surrounded by stuff. Half-unpacked moving boxes were everywhere. Wedding gifts were still in their shiny wrapping paper piled in a corner. Clothes, expensive designer clothes, many with the tags still on, were thrown over the furniture, and there were bottles. Champagne bottles, wine bottles, an empty vodka bottle on the kitchen counter. Kara was still in her pajamas. Her hair was matted. Her face was swollen and red. She was the perfect picture of a perfect life collapsing. He just left, she whispered. She was holding a single one of her new husband's socks. He just left. I walked past her and went into the kitchen. I found the coffee maker, a top-of-the-line machine that probably cost $500. I found the coffee. I started a pot. Did you just make coffee? She asked, her voice baffled. You need water and coffee, I said. Not more wine. I leaned against the marble countertop. What happened, Kara? I don't know, she cried, getting angry. We were fine. We were in Hawaii. It was perfect. And then, we had one fight. Just a stupid fight. I wanted to buy this bracelet, and he said we should wait, and I got mad. I told him my father would buy it for me if he wouldn't. I closed my eyes. Kara! And then it all came out. He started yelling. He said I was a spoiled brat. He said I was a black hole for money and attention. He said I didn't love him. I just loved having a wedding. He said I didn't know how to be a real person. She was sobbing again, rocking back and forth. He's so mean, Soph. He was so mean to me. But was he wrong? I asked. My voice was quiet. It wasn't an accusation. It was a simple question. Kara's head snapped up. She stared at me, her mouth open. What, you're taking his side? My husband just left me and you're taking his side. I'm not taking anyone's side, I said. I poured the black coffee into a mug and pushed it across the counter toward her. I'm just listening. I'm listening to what he said. He said you're just like mom and dad. He said you need space. He said you're a black hole for attention. You're happy. She suddenly shrieked, her voice turning venomous. You're happy this is happening to me. You've always been jealous of me. Jealous that I got Ethan. Jealous that Dad loves me more. I just looked at her. I didn't flinch. The old words didn't hurt anymore. They were just true. Yes, he does love you more, I said, my voice calm. And look where it got you. He loves you so much that he taught you how to be a person no one can stand to be married to for more than 2 weeks. She recoiled as if I had slapped her. I'm not happy, Kara, I said. I'm just done. I'm done pretending. Pretending what? Pretending that this family isn't a train wreck. Pretending that you're perfect and I'm the problem. Pretending that mom and dad are good parents. I walked into the living room, stepping over a $300 pair of shoes. You're sitting in a mess, Kara, but it's not the boxes. It's not the wine. It's them. It's their entire system. You're the perfect product of their system. And your husband, the first person you couldn't control with dad's money or mom's guilt, just returned you to the store. Kara was silent. The sobs had stopped. She was just staring at me, her eyes wide with a new dawning horror. It wasn't just heartbreak. It was understanding she knew I was right. What do I do? She whispered. She sounded for the first time in her life like a small child. I have no idea, I said. But you always know what to do. I know what I'm going to do, I said. I'm going to leave. Leave? She asked. Like, leave the apartment? No, I'm leaving Indiana. I'm moving. Far away. Because of the wedding? She asked. Because of what Dad said? Yes, I said. Because of what he said. And because of what he's always said. And what he's always done. And what Mom has always let him do. Kara just sat there on the floor next to the sock. Then she said it. You were right to leave. Her voice was so soft I almost missed it. It wasn't for me. It was for her. She was saying it to herself. You were right to leave the wedding, she clarified, her eyes finding mine. You were right. I didn't say anything. I didn't say, I told you so. I didn't say, it's about time. I didn't say, welcome to the real world. I just stood there. Because sometimes the truth doesn't need sound. It just needs timing. The sound of the elevator door opening in the hallway outside the apartment made us both freeze. Heavy, angry footsteps. A key in the lock. Kara? My father's voice boomed. Kara flinched, hard, and scrambled to her feet. The terror was back in her eyes. Oh God, she whispered. He's here. I just stood by the kitchen counter and I waited. I wasn't running anymore. The next night, my mother called. The moment I saw her name on the screen, I knew. After the scene at Kara's apartment, the Cold War was over. They were launching the full-scale invasion. My father had stormed into Kara's apartment, seen me, seen the bottles, and his face had turned a deep, dangerous shade of red. He didn't yell. He did something worse. He got quiet. Sophia, he'd said, his voice a low rumble. What are you doing here? Kara called me, I said. Go home, he'd ordered, not looking at me, but at the empty vodka bottle. Dad, I said, go home. This is a family matter. This is a family matter. And I apparently was not family. I was just the help. I'd looked at Kara, who was cowering behind my mother, and I'd just left. I didn't fight. I didn't argue. I just walked out. Now my mother was calling. Her voice was too high. It was a bright, fake, sugary sound that made my teeth ache. Sophia, honey! How are you? I'm fine, Mom. What's wrong? Oh, nothing's wrong. Just, what a terrible thing with Kara and Ethan. Your father is handling it. He's talking to Ethan's father right now. He'll fix it. You know your father. He'll fix it. He'd fix a marriage like he'd fix a flat tire, with threats, money, and control. We were just thinking, she continued, her voice practically singing. It's been a while. We should have a nice family dinner. All of us. Just connect. I stayed silent. Sunday night. Your sister's cooking. That was it. That was the tell. My mother never let anyone cook, ever. Her kitchen was her kingdom. She was the queen, and everyone else was a potential health code violation. She would let me chop vegetables, but she would stand over my shoulder criticizing the size of the dice. Kara wasn't allowed to boil water without supervision. If Mom was letting Kara cook, it meant one of two things. Either Mom was in a coma, or this was a trap. Kara's cooking. I said, my voice flat. Yes! She wants to make her lasagna. Won't that be nice? A real family meal. 7 o'clock. Don't be late. She wasn't inviting me. She was summoning me. It wasn't a dinner. It was a setup. It was an ambush. I should have said no. I should have said, I'm busy. I should have said, I'm washing my hair. I had 1,000 easy excuses, but I said, okay. I said okay because I was tired of running. I was tired of hiding. My Oxygen folder had 3 new emails in it. One from Portland, one from Seattle. They wanted interviews, real ones. My escape was no longer a dream. It was a schedule. I didn't need to hide from them anymore. I just needed to say goodbye. I drove to the house on Sunday. The house that was never a home. When I walked in, I knew I was right. It was theater. The lights were dimmed. There were candles lit on the dining room table. Soft classical music was playing. My mother, who usually wore slacks and a sensible blouse, was wearing a silk dress. Sophia, darling. You're here, she chirped, kissing the air next to my cheek. She smelled like expensive perfume and hairspray. My father was in the living room, a glass of dark liquor in his hand. He was wearing a cashmere sweater. He nodded at me. Sophia. It was the polite company greeting. Where's Kara? I asked. In the kitchen, honey. Go say hi. I walked into the kitchen. Kara was standing over a pot of sauce, wooden spoon in hand. She was wearing a white apron. Her eyes were red and puffy, but she had makeup on. She was playing the part of the brave, heartbroken daughter. Hi, Soph, she whispered. You're actually cooking, I said. Mom's helping, she said. I looked at the counter. All the vegetables were perfectly chopped, all in neat little glass bowls. The pasta was already laid out. My mother had prepped every single ingredient. Kara's job was to stir. It's theater, I said, my voice low. What? This, all of it. The candles. The music. The apron. It's a show, Kara. Who's the audience? It's just dinner, Sophia. Please, she begged, her eyes filling with tears. Don't start, okay? Just be nice, please, for me. I can't take any more fighting. Right, I said. I'm the one who starts the fights. We sat at the table. My father poured the wine, an expensive red. He raised his glass. To family, he said, his eyes hard, staring right at me. The only thing that matters. We drank. The wine tasted like acid. The small talk was agony. It was all about the weather. About my mother's garden club. About a neighbor's new car. It was all so fake, so rehearsed, I wanted to scream. We were a family with a grenade on the table, and we were discussing the color of the placemats. My father cleared his throat. The music seemed to fade. This was it. The ambush. So, he said casually, cutting his lasagna. Your cousin Mark said he saw your resume. On one of those online sites. LinkedIn. I put my fork down. Mark worked at a company in Indianapolis. A competitor to the firm in Seattle I had applied to. They must have a shared network. He'd been spying. That's right, I said. My mother leaned forward. Her smile was gone. Her face was a mask of practiced concern. The sugar-coated steel. You're applying for jobs out west? She asked. I am. But why? She said, her voice dripping with fake pity. We just worry you're running from something, honey. Running from what, Mom? I asked, my voice dangerously quiet. From your problems, my father cut in. From what happened with Ethan and Kara. You see a little bit of trouble, and you run. Just like at the wedding. I looked at Kara. She was staring at her plate, pushing a noodle around. This has nothing to do with Kara, I said. This is about me. I'm building a life. Maybe I'm running toward something, I said, looking at my mother. Did you ever think of that? A better job. A new city. My father's tone shifted. The concerned dad was gone. The warden was back. Don't make this another rebellion, Sophia, he said. Rebellion, I repeated. I almost laughed. That's your word for me, isn't it? Anything I do that you don't control is a rebellion. Graduating with honors was a rebellion. Paying my own tuition was a rebellion. Wanting a career is a rebellion. Wanting a career, he scoffed. You're a child playing games. This is your family. This is your home. No, I said. This is your house. It's your family. I'm I'm just the staff. I'm the one who's supposed to be quiet and clean up the messes and be grateful for the scraps. You're being cruel, my mother whispered, her hand flying to her chest. Cruel? I finally looked right at my father, the man at the head of the table. The king. He called me Space in front of 200 people. He told me I was a failure my entire life. He gave my college fund to my sister so she could go to Italy, and I worked nights at a hospital diner. But I'm cruel? I shook my head. And then I said the truest thing I had ever said to them. Or maybe you've just always been cruel, I said. And I'm just the only one who's ever been brave enough to say it to your face. The room didn't just go quiet. It died. The air was sucked out of it. The only sound was the crackle of the stupid candles on the table. My mother looked like she'd been struck by lightning. Kara had her hands over her mouth, and my father, his face was white. He was staring at me, not with anger, but with a kind of stunned, primal shock. The mask wasn't just cracked. It was gone. The silence stretched on. It was a terrible, thick, heavy thing. It was the silence of a dam just before it breaks. My father's knuckles were white. He was gripping his wine glass so tightly I thought it might shatter. My mother was the first to move. She reached out, her hand trembling, and put it on my father's arm. Richard, she doesn't mean it, she whispered. She's just lashing out. She's upset about Kara. She was trying to give me an out. She was trying to rewrite the script right in front of me. She was making me the hysterical daughter, making my truth a symptom of Kara's drama. I looked at my mother. Don't do that, I said. Don't use Kara to erase what I just said. Look at me, both of you. I wasn't yelling. I wasn't crying. My voice was as cold and steady as the floor. This isn't dinner, I said, pushing my chair back. This is theater. It's a badly written play you put on every time you feel like you're losing control. The candles, the music, Kara's fake lasagna. It's all a set. You're not a family. You're a hostage situation. My father stood up. He did it slowly, deliberately. He was 6'2". He was used to towering over people. He was used to people shrinking. Watch your tone, he said. His voice was low and shaking with rage. That was it. That was his last move. When he couldn't win on facts, he attacked the delivery. I stood up too. I wasn't as tall as him. I didn't have to be. My tone? I almost laughed. My tone, that's it? That's all you have left? I am your father, he roared. And I am your daughter. I'm not your employee. I'm not your property. You don't get to watch my tone anymore. I'm not 16. I'm not scared of you. You should be, he snarled. No, I said. I shouldn't, and I'm not. Because I finally see you. All you care about is what people think. All you care about is tone and control and appearances. You don't care about me. You don't care about her. I pointed to Kara, who was silently weeping. You only care about how we make you look. We're just accessories. We're just things you own. My mother started to sob. Sophia, stop. You're destroying this family. This family was already destroyed. I shot back. I'm just the one who finally opened the door and let the smell out. That is enough, my father yelled. He slammed his hand on the table. The glasses jumped. Wine spilled. We gave you everything. It was the line. His final desperate nuclear option. The ultimate guilt trip. The words that were meant to remind me that I was nothing, that I was built from his charity, that I was indebted to him for the very air I breathed. It had always worked before. It had always made me shrink. It had always made me apologize, but I wasn't that girl anymore. I looked him right in the eye. His face was red. His chest was heaving. No, I said. My voice was quiet. It cut through his rage like a knife. You didn't give me everything. You gave Kara everything. You gave me a list of chores. I took a step closer. You didn't give me love. You sold me approval at interest. And the payments were too high. He stared at me. His mouth opened, but nothing came out. And for the first time in my entire life, my father looked small. He was just a man. A sad, angry, weak man in a cashmere sweater, standing in a fake dining room, with a broken family he had bullied into silence. The power shifted. It left his body and it flooded into mine. It was warm and solid. It was mine. I'm done, I said. I picked up my purse from the floor. I walked to the front hall. You can keep the house, I said, my voice echoing in the hall. You can keep the rules. You can keep the silence you demand from everyone. I turned, my hand on the doorknob. My mother was standing in the dining room doorway, her face a mess of tears and mascara. My father was still frozen by the table. Kara was just a shadow. I'm keeping myself, I said, and I walked out. I walked out into the cool night air. I didn't run. I didn't slam the door, I just left. I left them in their theater with their cold food and their crackling candles. I got in my car. I sat in the driveway for 1 second. I looked at the house, my prison, and I put the car in reverse. I backed out of the driveway and I didn't look back. I knew, with a certainty that settled into my bones, that I would never, ever be in that house again. The break was clean. It was final. I didn't drive to my apartment. Not at first. I just drove. I drove through the quiet suburban streets of the town I grew up in. I drove past my high school. I drove past the library where I used to work, the park where I used to hide and read books. My hands were shaking. My heart was pounding so hard it hurt my chest. But I wasn't crying. I felt hollow. I felt light. I had done it. I had said the words that had been sitting in my stomach like stones for 20 years. You sold me approval at interest. I had taken my power back. After an hour, I went home to my own small apartment, the one they hated, the one that was my sanctuary. I walked in and locked the door. I double-bolted it. Then I walked to my desk and I opened my laptop. The adrenaline was still pumping. I knew I wouldn't sleep. This was the time. Not tomorrow. Not next week. Now. I opened my web browser. I logged into my bank. I saw the family emergency account my father had made me open with him when I got my first real job. It's just for emergencies, he'd said, so I can help you if you ever get in trouble. I knew, even then, it wasn't for helping. It was for watching. It was so he could monitor my salary. It was so he could see what I was spending. It was his leash. For the last 6 months, I had been slowly, carefully, moving my paycheck into my own oxygen account, the one he didn't know about. But there were still a few $1,000s in that family account. My last 2 paychecks. I looked at the transfer button. This was the real break. The emotional break was done. This was the financial one. My hands hovered over the keyboard. I thought about what he would say. Stealing. Ungrateful. I clicked transfer. I selected the account. I typed in the full amount. Every last penny that I had earned. I hit confirm. The screen processed. Your transfer is complete. Then I went to the account settings. I found the link. Close account. A pop-up appeared. Are you sure? This action is final. I clicked yes, clean, legal, final. The account was gone. His leash was gone. I wasn't just his daughter. I was a legal adult, taking my own money from a joint account. He couldn't stop me. You said this was for emergencies, Dad. I thought. This was one. I was the emergency. I leaned back in my chair. The sense of relief was so huge, so total, that I finally cried. It wasn't a sad cry. It was a release. It was 24 years of pressure, of judgment, of space, finally leaving my body. I cried for about 10 minutes. Then I stopped. I went to my closet. I pulled out a single suitcase, the one I had bought at a thrift store 2 weeks ago. I started to pack. I didn't pack the junk. I didn't pack the high school yearbooks. I didn't pack the framed photos of my family. I packed 3 pairs of jeans. I packed my best work clothes. I packed my sweaters. I packed my toothbrush. I packed my laptop. I packed the files, my birth certificate, my diploma, my essentials. I was done by 4 a.m. I had 2 emails waiting for me. The firm in Portland. We'd love to fly you out. When are you available? I wrote back. I can be there tomorrow. I bought a one-way ticket on my credit card. The flight left at 7 a.m. At dawn, as the sky was turning a pale, bruised purple, I packed the single suitcase and my backpack into my old Honda. I drove out of my apartment complex. I didn't look back. By sunrise, I was at the Indianapolis airport. I walked through security. I sat at the gate. My phone was off. I didn't want to hear it ring. I didn't want to see the mom or dad or Kara light up the screen. I was a ghost. I got on the plane. I found my window seat. I buckled in. The plane taxied to the runway. I looked out the window at the flat, gray land of Indiana. The engines roared. The plane pushed forward, faster and faster. And then, lift. The ground fell away. As we climbed through the clouds, I heard his words again, echoing in my head from that wedding night. Some kids make you proud. Others just take up space. The plane broke through the cloud cover. The bright, clean, blinding sunlight filled the cabin. I smiled. It was a real smile. A smile that reached my eyes. "Then watch me take all the space I want," I whispered. And for the first time in my life, I finally fit inside my own breath. Portland smelled like rain and cedar. My new apartment was small, cracked and imperfect, but it was the first home I ever had. It was all mine. The job offer came through in 2 weeks. I was sitting on the floor when the phone rang. "We'd like to formally offer you the position of creative director, full-time, benefits, and respect." 2 words my father never gave me. My new life started. I bought a real bed. I painted the walls. I went to work. I breathed. Months later, a voicemail came from an unknown number. It was Kara. "I left, Soph," her voice whispered. "I'm in Chicago. I got a job." She explained that Dad had tried to fix her marriage and failed. "Mom cried when I left," Kara said, her voice clear. "Not because she's sad, because she's lost control." "Thank you. Thank you for showing me it's possible." I replayed the message twice. I didn't feel triumph. I just felt light. That night, I stood by my window. I poured a glass of water and raised it to the quiet, rainy city. "Here's to taking up space," I whispered. "Because peace isn't the silence they demand. That's just fear. Peace is the kind you create." And for the first time in my life, I finally fit inside my own breath.